Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
We are diving into a classic soap opera conundrum today, but one that's really packed with layers. Psychological complexity, relationship dynamics.
And those deep structural implications, too. It's fascinating stuff.
Totally. Our focus is squarely on listener Claire Grace Newman. She's fundamentally torn between two very different paths.
Yeah.
Right. Represented by two men.
Exactly. You've got Kyle Abbott, the predictable structure, maybe the safe harbor.
Yeah, that fits. And then there's Holden Novak. He represents something maybe a bit wilder, yet perhaps, the sources argue, more honest waters.
That's absolutely right. And the source material we've got today, it doesn't really sit on the fence, does it?
Not at all.
It provides a pretty compelling, I'd say highly detailed argument for why Holden is, well, psychologically and structurally, the superior choice for Claire, at least at this pivotal moment in her life.
So our mission today, for you listening, is to really move past just the surface drama.
Right. We need to analyze the starkly contrasting arguments for each guy. Really focus on those essential concepts like emotional readiness after trauma. That's huge here.
Huge. And what true honesty actually looks like in a relationship.
And how these different relationship dynamics really influence Claire's, developing identity. That's key.
And the dilemma at the core is just the perfect friction point, isn't it? Claire's actively resisting both extremes.
She is. She says Holden's lifestyle seems a little wild, maybe carries too much risk for her right now.
But then, crucially, she is definitely not ready for Kyle's immediate desire to, settle down and get married.
Yeah.
She sees that as suffocation.
Which, given her background, makes perfect sense. She's looking for a very specific middle ground, a life that offers stability, yeah, but without stifling this independence she's just starting to find.
That's a massive ask, though, when your first two real choices seem so diametrically opposed, like polar opposites.
It really is. And the sources seem to suggest that the reason she's so conflicted, so torn, is because one man is offering a life she thinks maybe she should want.
The expected path.
Exactly. While the other guy, Holden, is maybe offering a path that allows her to discover what she actually wants. Not what's expected, but what's truly her.
Okay, let's dig into that. Starting with the recent events, especially that breakdown with Kyle. It really highlights this pattern, doesn't it? His need for control versus her fundamental need for space.
Precisely. And that need for space is only pushing her further away, Claire took a really decisive action. She called things off with Kyle. She recognized it was all getting too intense way too quickly.
And then she physically left, went all the way to Los Angeles, specifically for time and distance. That was her drawing a line, a clear boundary.
An undeniable boundary. And Kyle's response, well, it was just a catastrophic failure to respect that boundary.
And the sources point out this isn't the first time, right? This is a pattern.
Oh, absolutely. Remember the last time Claire asked for just a moment to breathe, to slow things down? What did Kyle do?
He blindsided her with a marriage proposal.
Exactly. That's not listening. That's like escalating the commitment specifically to override her emotional need for space. It's classic control.
It really speaks volumes about his approach to relationships, doesn't it? He seems to see her request for space not as like a genuine need she has,
but as an obstacle to his goal, his timeline.
So this time, when she literally left the state,
He still followed her to L.A. He wasn't there to respect her boundary, not at all. He was there to try and convince her to come home.
And maybe worse, right? The sources say he was actively trying to undermine her connection with Holden, telling her Holden was no good.
Yeah, that's crossing another line. And the violation wasn't just about physical proximity showing up uninvited.
No, he also investigated Holden, dug into his past.
Which is just an act of surveillance, really. A huge breach of trust and privacy, especially given Claire's background with control and manipulation.
So when Holden found out about the investigation and told Claire, the sources noted she absolutely lost it. And who can blame her?
No one. That level of invasion is the absolute antithesis of the trust someone recovering from her kind of trauma needs. It's incredibly damaging.
Yet, and this is where it gets complicated, isn't it? Despite all this boundary pushing, all this conflict.
Right. The sources capture this crucial nuance. Even when she knew Kyle's behavior was, well, problematic.
Deeply problematic.
Yeah. She was still visibly bothered when Kyle finally said he was going home to Genoa City. Packed his bags, basically.
That reaction shows it's not just physical attraction or something superficial keeping her connected to him.
Exactly. It shows she is genuinely torn. Because Kyle, for all his faults, represents stability, familiarity. He was her entry point into trying to have a normal life after everything.
That familiarity, even if it's flawed familiarity, is really hard to let go of, especially when the alternative feels unknown or wild.
Right. Even when that familiarity is causing her pain, it's still known pain versus the unknown.
That's a great way to put it. The conflict between what feels safe, even if it's bad, and what might actually be right for her growth.
Yeah. So let's pivot to that turning point in LA Halloween night. This is where Claire decided, just for a moment maybe, to reject that safe option.
And embrace that wild side she seems a little afraid of.
The sources paint this as a moment of just pure emotional release for her. Claire got tipsy, got a little wild, yeah.
And it culminated in her telling Holden point blank, forget about Kyle.
She chose the moment. She chose the passion, the excitement. She took control, in a way.
And the outcome was that night of passion. And immediately after, in that sort of unguarded moment, she told Holden she had no regrets.
That feeling of liberation, that assertion of her own agency, it must have felt incredibly powerful for her.
Absolutely. But as we always see in Genoa City, that kind of freedom often comes with an immediate side of guilt, doesn't it?
It sure did. Almost instantly. That sense of freedom just collided head-on with intense guilt when she saw that text message from Kyle.
Right, the picture. Him and little Harrison Locke in their Halloween costumes.
And that small detail, the costumes, it carries this massive symbolic weight, doesn't it?
Let's linger on that because it's important.
Yeah.
The guilt wasn't just vague, like, oh, I cheated. It was specific. She was supposed to be the third of the three little pigs.
Right.
But she bailed on them. Bailed on Kyle and Harrison to be with Holden instead.
And the three little pigs, I mean, the symbolism is almost too perfect, right? Safety, home, building something strong enough to withstand the external threats. The wolf, or maybe in this context, the chaos of her past trauma.
Exactly. So by bailing on that specific costume, she symbolically abandoned that stable, pre-built family unit Kyle was offering her. The safe house made of bricks.
And the sources confirm this, sent her straight to her mother, Victoria, where she confessed these lingering doubts.
She admitted she's unsure if Holden is the one, precisely because he seems a little wild.
That's the voice of a young woman who is deeply, deeply afraid of instability. After surviving years of profound psychological chaos, that fear is completely understandable.
And that concern about the wild factor, well, it was certainly reinforced, wasn't it? When Holden made his own confession about his past.
Right. This is where the two men really diverge on honesty.
Holden's confession, the hush money situation.
Yeah. Holden chose to reveal that years ago, he took $100,000 in hush money from Audra Charles. After she'd stolen $500,000 from someone else, he came clean about that past ethical compromise.
Okay, I have to pause here, though.
Yeah.
Because the sources seem to kind of give Holden a pass on this. Should we challenge that a bit? Taking hush money, that's still a mark of moral ambiguity, isn't it? It's not exactly clean.
Oh, it absolutely is morally ambiguous, no question. But the source contextualizes it in a really interesting way, focusing on Claire's reaction and Holden's motivation.
Okay, so Claire, to her credit perhaps, doesn't view it as an immediate deal breaker. She isn't judging him harshly.
Right. I mean, the source points out she feels she's done a lot worse, given the brainwashing and what Jordan made her do. So her perspective is skewed, maybe, but understandable.
So her concern isn't the act itself from years ago.
But not primarily. The source argues her real lingering worry is that trouble might just follow Holden, that his past, even if confessed, brings a certain level of drama or risk into her life.
Ah, okay. So it connects back to her desire not to live life on the edge. She's trying to build stability, and she worries his past baggage might disrupt that.
Precisely. It conflicts with that deep need she has right now to just stabilize her identity, find solid ground.
So the argument isn't claiming Holden is some kind of saint.
Not at all.
It's more that his moral failing is in the past, he owned up to it, he confessed it to her, and she feels she can accept it, or at least process it.
Yes. Whereas Kyle's moral failing, well, that's active, it's current, and it involves continuous deception. Which brings us neatly to the case against Kyle.
Okay. Here's where it gets really interesting. Pivoting fully to the Kyle relationship. The sources paint a really clear picture here. Structural imbalance, agenda-driven behavior.
Yeah, and it seems largely centered around Kyle's immediate, almost clinical need to just replicate his previous domestic life. Fill that gap, summer left.
He has been, according to the sources, more serious than Claire about the relationship the entire time.
The entire time. The source explicitly states Kyle has been trying to, and I quote, low-key wife up Claire from the start.
Low-key wife up. That phrasing says a lot.
It does. And that seriousness, that drive, it wasn't just pure, spontaneous romantic desire, was it? It was driven partly by necessity, by the convenience of her role.
That's the major indictment of the relationship structure, isn't it? As Harrison's nanny, Claire just conveniently filled the emotional and structural slot that Summer Newman had vacated when Kyle dumped her as his wife.
Exactly. She wasn't met as Claire, the individual. She was slotted into an existing, prefabricated life structure, one designed for a wife and a mother.
And there wasn't space given for them to build something unique together, something that fit them.
No. Which leads to that fantastic analogy the sources use, describing the relationship with Kyle as a starter home experience.
Right. Not the forever dream home.
No. Maybe smaller, functionally or emotionally, not quite what she truly wanted or needed long term, but it was safe. It was immediately available after her trauma.
And it allowed her to get her feet wet, right?
Yeah.
In the world of romance, intimacy, cohabitation, things she'd never experienced.
Exactly. A place to start learning.
But that starter home is fundamentally insufficient, isn't it? Especially for someone like Claire, who isn't just upgrading her address. She's literally building a new identity foundation from scratch.
Completely insufficient. And the definitive conclusion the sources reach is that for Claire, the intensity was just too much too soon.
Kyle was her first love. Her first everything in that sense.
Her first everything. But the source strongly believes he won't be her last. He served a purpose, maybe, but he's not the destination.
Because ultimately, she's trying to find herself, right? She doesn't want to get married and settle down with the very first serious boyfriend she's ever had.
Especially not one who comes with such a fully structured life already built, complete with existing obligations like a child and an ex-wife lurking.
And this imbalance, this rushing, it translates directly into those issues of agency and suffocation, which are just poison for someone recovering from brainwashing and control.
Absolutely toxic. Kyle is constantly pushing for what he wants and overriding Claire's wants and needs. We see it again and again.
His refusal to slow down when she asked. His attempts to dictate the pace. Following her across state lines.
All of it just strips Claire of the very autonomy she desperately needs to heal and to feel safe.
He suffocated Claire when she asked for space. That's the core of it.
We saw it when he followed her to L.A. We see it in his constant marriage agenda. He's basically trying to shoehorn her into this box, this role, wife and mom.
And the sources emphasize that's primarily what he wants and needs in his life right now.
Completely irrespective of Claire's emotional development, her readiness, or her incredibly relevant traumatic history. It's about his needs, not hers.
And then there's the element the sources flat out label as manipulative.
Yes. The unfair usage of Harrison. Kyle knows Claire has a genuine, strong bond with his son.
And he's leveraging it.
Totally.
Yeah.
He is using little Harrison, sending those costume pictures, emphasizing the family unit they could be, to try and tempt Claire back, to guilt her back.
The source is really firm on this. It's unfair to both of them.
Absolutely. It's unfair to Harrison, whose affection is basically being weaponized in this adult conflict. And it's deeply unfair to Claire, who's being made to feel guilty for prioritizing her own mental health over stepping back into that ready-made mother figure role for Kyle's child.
Thankfully, her mother, Victoria, stepped in there, gave her that crucial perspective.
Yes, confirming that Claire doesn't have to date Kyle to be in Harrison's life, separating the romantic relationship from the connection with the child.
That's such a crucial line. It gives Claire the emotional permission she needed to choose herself without feeling like she was abandoning Harrison.
Absolutely vital. But the truly deciding factor against Kyle, the fatal flaw woven through this whole relationship structure, it's the dishonesty.
Yeah. The source pulls no punches, calls Kyle a liar.
Plain and simple. He has lied to Claire repeatedly, both directly and by lies of omission. And crucially, the source says he is still lying right now.
Let's break down those lies because they show a clear pattern of evasion, not just one mistake.
Okay, so first, Kyle fibbed about his actions with Audra Charles before he went to France. Minimized things.
Then he fibbed about what actually happened in France with Audra.
Right. And eventually, he only partially came clean. He gave her a heavily edited version of events.
That web of deception happening while their relationship was supposedly deepening and getting serious. It's just corrosive to trust, isn't it?
Completely. And here's the core deception that, according to the sources, continues to poison the well. Kyle has still not told Claire the whole truth about France.
This isn't just a minor omission or a misunderstanding.
No, the source frames it as a calculated, ongoing omission. He has never confessed the full specifics, the really damaging details.
Why, sorry.
That he was in a towel, half naked, rubbing around on top of Audra, making out with her, that level of physical intimacy and betrayal.
Wow. Okay, that specific detail changes everything. It elevates it from maybe a drunken, vague flirtation or a single kiss.
To a serious act of betrayal, especially given he was supposedly committed to Claire at the time.
So if he's lied about the extent of that physical contact, what else is he potentially hiding or minimizing?
Exactly. And what does that say about his respect for her intelligence, for her right to know who she's actually involved with?
It says he prioritizes protecting himself, his image, and maybe his relationship agenda.
Over the truth. Over her right to the truth. The sources conclude really firmly on this point. They believe that if Claire knew the whole unvarnished truth about that incident in France, the exact nature, the intimacy of the contact,
She'd be done.
they say, I don't think she would look Kyle's way again. That's how significant they think this ongoing omission is.
So his continued failure to confess the full extent of the affair is a fatal flaw. Because it means the foundation of their relationship, even if they got back together now, is built on a lie he actively refuses to fix.
Precisely. And that stands in stark contrast to Holden, right, who, despite his own past failing, chose to disclose it, chose honesty to try and build future trust. Kyle's doing the opposite.
Okay, this context of Kyle's deception makes Claire's own situation even more critical. Let's talk about her recovery and emotional readiness.
Yes, what's fascinating here is we really need to step back and look at the psychological framework governing Claire's choices. It's not standard relationship drama.
No. When she started dating Kyle, she wasn't just, getting over a bad breakup. She was deep in recovery mode from intense, prolonged psychological trauma.
Years of it, sourced directly from the deliberate, intense brainwashing by her psycho aunt Jordan Howard. We can't forget the severity of that.
No, we can't. Jordan manipulated Claire into trying to execute this horrific plan. To kill her own parents, Victoria and Cole, her grandparents, her uncle.
It completely shattered her sense of reality, her sense of self, her trust in anyone, including herself.
So, contextually, when she met Kyle, she had just spent time in a psych wing of the hospital. She was still in the absolute earliest phase of recovery.
She was effectively like a blank slate in many ways, trying to relearn how to live a normal, healthy life, free from that external control and manipulation she'd known for so long.
Which means any kind of structure imposed on her during that fragile phase is inherently risky.
Extremely risky. And the sources really stress her profound lack of basic life experience, which just magnifies the danger of Kyle's intensity.
Yeah, they listed out Claire had never had a boyfriend, never been on a date, never been intimate with anyone.
She literally didn't really have a life in the conventional sense before Kyle. That context is just everything when evaluating her choices and needs.
Think about it. For most people, their first serious relationship happens after they've formed some kind of identity, built a support system, maybe had a decade of navigating social interactions.
Claire had none of that foundation. She entered the relationship with Kyle completely vulnerable, raw, having just survived this massive crisis of identity and reality.
The analogy the source uses here is so important for understanding her readiness. We really need to use this as our analytical anchor.
Yes, the comparison to someone newly sober, recovering from alcohol or drug addiction.
Right. Those individuals are typically advised, sometimes even strongly urged by professionals, not to get romantically involved for a significant period, often a year.
And that advice exists for a very clear reason, doesn't it? When you're newly sober, or in Claire's case, recovering from profound psychological trauma and manipulation,
You need a clear head. You need to make decisions that aren't clouded by the impulse to just fill an emotional void or maybe develop a codependent attachment really quickly.
exactly. Claire was absolutely in an equivalent psychological state. Recovering from years of mental enslavement by Jordan, she desperately needed clarity, independence, time to figure out who she was.
Not the pressure of being immediately slotted into an instant family dynamic, which is what Kyle offered.
Precisely. This really highlights why Kyle's constant push for marriage is so deeply detrimental to her recovery.
It's forcing her towards a predefined identity wife, mom, part of this established family structure.
Before she has even had a chance to define who Claire is, independently of her trauma, independently of Jordan, independently of even the Newmans.
The conflict is just crystal clear now. Her very first serious boyfriend is trying to lock her down permanently into a life he wants.
It's a massive weight to put on a newly forming identity. She needs a partner who provides space for that growth, who validates her autonomy, who allows for a slow, cautious connection to build.
And Kyle provides none of that.
None of it. He offers a quick fix, an immediate structure to fill the void left by her past trauma. But that risks creating a new form of entrapment, maybe healthier looking on the surface, but still constricting her development.
So we've established the intensity, the defined roles, the pressure from Kyle were completely inappropriate and actively counterproductive for someone trying to heal and define her own boundaries after extreme trauma.
Absolutely. Which brings us to the case for Holden.
Right. Let's turn to Holden. According to our sources, his relationship with Claire is built on the exact opposite foundation to Kyle's. It's organic connection versus that pushed prepackaged agenda.
Their connection is consistently described as way more organic. They didn't jump into dating goals or marriage talks.
No, they got to know each other slowly, randomly. It started as just a growing friendship.
Only after that friendship foundation was built did it transition, first romantically and then finally intimately. That slow, gradual, layered pace. It's the psychological antidote Claire actually needed.
It's the evolution that matters, right? It evolves very naturally. And critically, Claire chose to be with Holden at every single step of that evolution. She opted in.
That's the critical difference. He didn't swoop in and take over her life, which, as we just established, is precisely what Kyle did by immediately placing her in that role Summer vacated.
Holden required Claire to make active choices, to consent to each stage.
And that organic process leads directly to what the sources see as Holden's core strength, his respect and consideration for her.
He's been very considerate of Claire's feelings, apparently showing this acute awareness of her lingering feelings for Kyle, the complexity of her whole situation. He wasn't blind to that.
No, and he actively showed respect by working overtime to not act threatened, even while the sources confirm he was, crushing hard on Claire himself.
He maintained a respectful distance, didn't pressure her.
Exactly. He ensured she felt no pressure to make a choice just for his benefit or to speed things up for him. That kind of restraint is massive when you're dealing with a trauma survivor, someone acutely sensitive to any hint of manipulation or pressure.
And the key behavioral marker for Holden, the thing he keeps doing,
is the consistent checking in. That's huge. At every step, he's constantly asking Claire, is this okay? Is this what you want?
He's giving her verbal permission to pause, to withdraw at any moment.
Yes. He even showed maturity by acknowledging Kyle's feelings, didn't he? Saying, Kyle loves you. He wasn't trying to pretend Kyle didn't exist or didn't matter to her.
And, crucially, before they took things further physically, he asked her if that intimate connection was truly what she really wants.
That is agency in action. It links directly back to the needs of someone recovering from years of having their agency systematically stolen by Jordan.
Holden is putting what Claire wants first, way over what he wants. That's the source's take.
And that provides the exact validation, the sense of control, the emotional safety that she desperately needs right now. It's a fundamental contrast to Kyle's overwhelming imposition of his own life structure and timeline onto her.
Okay, and let's circle back to the honesty differential again. We talked about Holden's past issue, the $100,000 hush money from Audra.
Right. Holden provided a full disclosure about that situation, and the sources emphasize he did this knowing that he could lose Claire by coming clean. He took that risk.
That's why. The source argues he felt he had to. Once the relationship became serious, honesty was paramount for him.
Now, as we pointed out before, Holden did wait until they got serious to tell her. He didn't blurt it out on the first date.
Which seems reasonable, doesn't it?
The source argues it is acceptable. Their rationale is basically you don't reveal your biggest secrets, your most damaging baggage, until you're way deep in with them, until there's a foundation of trust worth risking.
And this is specifically contrasted with Kyle,
who was actively keeping things from Claire when they were very deep into a serious thing, already talking marriage, and who is still keeping the most damaging details secret from her.
The difference feels profound when you frame it like that.
It is. Holden risked his connection with Claire for the sake of future integrity. Kyle is risking the integrity of the connection for the sake of keeping the relationship going based on false pretenses.
So Holden, by coming clean, effectively reset the relationship on a foundation of mutual trust. He gave Claire all the necessary information, the good and the bad, to make a truly informed choice about him.
While Kyle, through his continued omission about France, ensures Claire's choice regarding him is based on incomplete, essentially falsified data. She doesn't have the full picture to make her choice.
Okay, that's a powerful distinction. Now let's bring in the external factors, because this isn't just happening in a vacuum.
No, if we connect this to the bigger picture, we absolutely have to analyze those external, almost inescapable factors, like status, family connections. They add layers of complication that have little to do with personal feelings sometimes.
But everything to do with long-term stability and ease. Right.
Exactly. And we see this stark, almost inherited contrast in status between Kyle and Holden.
Kyle gets labeled a Nepo baby, straight up.
Someone who has been given everything on a silver platter. The source even suggests he still acts like a brat sometimes, implying maybe a lack of genuine understanding of struggle or self-reliance. He operates within that sheltered Abba-Jabbat corporate framework.
Whereas Holden is explicitly celebrated as a self-made man, a hard worker.
This contrast matters, especially, you could argue, to a Newman, given Victor's own history.
And while we acknowledge the sketchiness of Holden taking that $100,000,
right, the source actually kind of defends it within this framework, noting that Holden made choices maybe necessary to survive or get ahead outside of a safety net. They ask who would turn that money away, especially back then, and it wasn't like he could easily send it back to Audra.
So the overall perception painted is Holden built his own success, maybe with some gray areas, through effort. Kyle largely inherited the structure for his success.
And for Claire, who is trying to build her own independent life, maybe the self-made man represents a partner who understands that struggle for autonomy better.
Contrasting with Kyle, who's always had his identity somewhat subsidized by wealth and that powerful family legacy, it's an interesting angle.
It is. But the biggest external bomb dropped on the Kyle relationship, one that is entirely outside Claire's control, is the Victor Newman factor.
Ah, yes. The eternal obstacle.
It's unavoidable. Victor Newman will never accept him. Period.
Because Kyle is Jack Abbott's son.
Exactly. That rivalry between Victor and Jack, it's practically genetic in Genoa City. It's unresolvable. It's a permanent fixture of their world.
Which means, realistically, it will never be easy for Claire to be with Kyle and also be close to her family.
Never. She would constantly be caught in the crossfire, pitted against her incredibly powerful, dominant grandfather.
And the sources are blunt. Victor is also not going to change. He's not mellowing on this.
No way. The source points out that this inevitable familial rift, while deeply unfair to Claire, it's not her fault.
It's a reality that will generate constant stress, constant conflict, constant loyalty tests.
And for a young woman desperately seeking stability after trauma, choosing Kyle means actively choosing eternal family warfare. Is that healing? Probably not.
Conversely, Holden presents a much easier pass in that regard.
Much easier. Victor is more likely to accept Holden and give him a chance to prove that he's good enough for Claire. Why?
Because Holden has no ancestral conflict with the Newmans. He's not an Abbott.
Bingo. The sources cite past examples, noting how Victor eventually came around on people who weren't from legacy rival families, like Cole, Claire's own father, or even Chelsea Lawson Newman, despite her past.
Holden's lack of association with the Abbott dynasty just makes him a far easier pill for Victor to swallow. Maybe not embrace immediately, but tolerate.
And that external ease, that lack of built-in conflict, is hugely significant for Claire's well-being.
Holden provides her with the possibility, at least, of having a romantic relationship that doesn't constantly pit her against her powerful family. That's exactly the kind of stability she needs to maintain her post-trauma equilibrium.
Furthermore, just looking ahead, practically speaking, Holden offers a much cleaner slate for their combined future.
How so?
With Holden, there are no ex-wife complications, no kid complications. It's a completely fresh start, which, again, seems ideal for someone building a new life from the ground up, like Claire is.
Whereas with Kyle, she's constantly interacting with the shadow of summer. She's negotiating custody schedules, drop-offs, the whole co-parenting dynamic around Harrison.
It places her squarely in the middle of ongoing family drama that started long before she arrived. It's inherited baggage.
Right, it's not a clean break.
The source does speculate briefly about future family growth. Suggests Claire and Holden could potentially have a baby, accidentally or on purpose, down the line. Notes Claire would be a wonderful mom.
But they immediately clarify.
Not right now, emphasizing that her recovery, her stability, is the absolute priority.
So the key takeaway here is that the path forward with Holden is unencumbered by past structures. It allows Claire and Holden to potentially design their future together, organically.
Whereas Kyle offers a life that is already fully designed, fully furnished, complete with existing occupants and rules. She just has to fit in.
Okay, wow. That lays it all out pretty clearly. So let's wrap this up. What does this all mean? After digging through the sources, charting the emotional beats, the psychological needs, those external pressures, the verdict from our source materials seems remarkably clear.
It really does. The source argues pretty definitively that Holden tips the scales in his favor.
And that preference isn't just based on, like, surface-level attraction.
Yeah. No, it's driven by a combination of that natural chemistry and fundamental differences in character and approach. They share natural chemistry, yes, but more importantly, their connection is driven by real feelings that are slow-burning and mutual.
Giving Claire that crucial chance to breathe, to process, and to choose.
Exactly. And the most important takeaway, the foundational element that Claire needs most right now for her healing and recovery.
Honesty.
Honesty. Holden has been totally honest with Claire, at least as of now, having confessed his significant past issue, while Kyle still has not disclosed the full damning details of his affair with Audra in France.
So Kyle offered a structure she wasn't ready for, built on a foundation of deception and control.
While Holden offered a partnership built on respect, agency, choice, and that slow mutual growth she seems to need.
It feels like Kyle attempted to almost trauma bond her into a pre-established role he needed filled.
That's a harsh way to put it, but yeah, there's an element of that. Whereas Holden offered her agency. Remember, her trauma forced Claire into a role she didn't choose, defined entirely by Jordan?
So now, to truly heal, she needs a partner and a path that allows her to choose her own identity.
That choice is absolutely vital. It's how she defines her post-trauma self on her own terms.
Okay, that leads us perfectly into our final provocative thought for you, the listener. Holden represents agency and choice for Claire, providing that crucial opportunity to build her own life structure, piece by piece, from the ground up. Kyle represents the comfort, maybe, of an inherited structure, safe in some ways, but ultimately constraining.
So the question for you is, given Claire's recent intense recovery and her profound lack of life experience before Kyle, which path will truly allow her to determine her own post-trauma identity? Is it the slow, perhaps more challenging build alongside the self-made man who respects her pace? Or is it the safe but potentially emotionally restrictive and dishonest path offered by the privileged Nepo baby with the ready-made life? Which path leads to the real Claire Newman?